And welcome to the VSA Capital Tech and Transitional Energy podcast. And hey, I'm actually Phil. Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Andrew.
I'm actually live down at Oxford, so to speak.
Yeah.
I'm at the Energy Super Hub Oxford. You can't see it, unfortunately, because this is a podcast. And I'm actually just sitting in my car outside, but I can see all the big pylons. And I've just been wandering around the Invinity Energy Systems batteries, and they're working. In fact, overnight last night they made about £5,000, I think, they did it, they stored up in the night cheap and then discharged this morning. They were showing me some nice graphs, and it's pretty cool. I mean, it's a massive site, it's a massive energy substation. They've obviously got the first cluster in, the second cluster is there too, but it's only the first cluster working at the moment. We've also been down there with some institutions who are having a little look at it, and also actually Jean-Louis, who is the key sort of designer man up in Bathgate, was there because he's obviously making sure they all work, and Matt and Larry were there as well. But obviously we had a good, he talked us through why it took so long, how it's all going. He's actually, you can tell he's really excited. He's also leading the joint venture with Siemens Gamesa, and obviously it's Siemens Gamesa equipment on site helping with this sort of energy management system. So actually, funny enough, I'll show you later, Phil. I apologise, listeners, that you can't see this, but I've actually got a printout of the electricity discharge that you can actually see it, how it worked this morning, and you can see how, whoa, this thing really does make money. And it's on a piece of Gamesa electric paper, which tells you just how involved they are, doesn't it, Phil? You see, I'm getting all the secrets for you.
It's fantastic news. So just a reminder for podcast listeners, this is Invinity Energy Systems. Client of ours, the ticker is IES, and Andrew's down visiting the Energy Super Hub Oxford, which is a big 50 megawatt combined lithium ion battery and Invinity flow batteries, and that's being used for EV charging, isn't it, Andrew? I think.
Well, it's got some of that, but it's being used by Habitat for actually trading on the grid.
Well.
So actually, the main use of these probably will be trading. As I say to a lot of fund managers and investors, buy cheap, sell high. It's the same with energy. So that's what they'll be using. But what was also interesting was the lithium-ion batteries are in place. There's actually, I think it's nearly 50 megawatt of lithium-ion batteries there. But I'll tell you what, were they making a noise? But it's all the air conditioning. They have massive air conditioning units at either end of the container, and they had massive fire units in cases of fire, and whereas the Invinity Energy Systems was just the batteries. They didn't need any of that.
Yeah, no, they wouldn't. Wow.
So you can see how actually when you look at the cost of these things, you can't just look at the cost of the battery alone. You've got to look at the all-in cost, and then of course you've got to levelize it over the lifetime of the product, because those lithium-ion batteries will be burnt out in 5 years' time, whereas our vanadium flow batteries will last probably 25 years, because you're just moving the electrons from one liquid to another liquid. There's no plating which degrades. I can't say the word, sorry. It's the excitement of being live on site. You do have a membrane, and you may have to replace the membrane after about 12 and a half years or something. But I mean, it is so much. It's very exciting. You can tell I'm excited.
I can tell.
Yeah. So here we go. And this is, believe it or not, I think you'll find, the largest working production flow battery site in the world. So this is the start of something massive.
That is very exciting.
Now, also, we should, whilst just talking about flow batteries, Phil, we should probably just quickly mention, shouldn't we, that Honeywell made an announcement yesterday, didn't they? Why don't you tell our listeners about the Honeywell announcement yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, Honeywell are best known, they're a multinational controls group, so controls technology. And they've announced that they are developing flow battery technology, which I think is terrifically exciting, because it shows that the tech itself is gaining real credibility as an alternative or a complement, as the case of the ESO, to lithium technology. To have another multinational come on board to develop it is I think it's super news. I mean, as I said to you, Andrew, it's competition coming in shows that there are real markets to go for.
Yeah, look, I mean, they haven't said what the technology is. They've simply said that it's not lithium, basically, and it's going to be a flow technology. So we don't know exactly what it is. We don't think it's zinc bromide. We don't think it's iron. We don't think it's vanadium. But it actually doesn't matter. It's showing that flow is an alternative. What I think this will do is, with Honeywell, who are a huge, global player, it's going to make Siemens Gamesa think, hang on a second, we've got serious competition here. We've got to accelerate things with Invinity and our joint development and joint commercialization. And I think this will wake Siemens up to get far more involved with Invinity. So I see it as very positive news. One thing I did notice on that Honeywell announcement, they have a 12-hour charge time. Now, 12 hours is quite a long time. You can probably do a charge a vanadium flow battery, or the Invinity ones, possibly 2.5 hours, certainly no more than 4. And of course, if you think about it, if you're taking cheap electricity or you're taking renewable energy, 12 hours is a long time to get cheap electricity if you're taking it off the grid. 12 hours is a long time to have the sun shining constantly. And 12 hours is quite a long time to have the wind blowing constantly, isn't it? So we need to look at more of the detail, but I would say that's the downside potentially of their product.
Yeah, well, let's see as news emerges. But it's great news for the market. I think really interesting.
Yeah, no, look, it is. It's very exciting. Anyway, we better move on. We better be fairly quick because I've actually got clients down here, and actually, I'll be honest with you, they've all gone in to have lunch and left me, or gone off to have lunch, and they've left me to do this podcast. And I'm starting to get a bit hungry, Phil. Anyway, but turning the clock back a bit, last Friday, one of the stocks we talk about quite a lot actually had a trading update, didn't it? Nexus Infrastructure. We like it for its division eSmart Energies, and I mean that bit was booming, wasn't it?
Yeah, eSmart Networks. They said that. So it's Nexus Infrastructure. The ticker's NEXS. 100 million market cap, and eSmart Networks, their revenue increased by 370%. So that's to £10 million from 2.2 million. And this is for EV charging infrastructure that they install and have expertise in. That was a cracking set of results for that.
I mean, this is one of our picks and shovels stocks, isn't it? And I mean, I just don't think the market understands, and it's still rating it as an old technology. So we love that one. In fact, there's been a bit of news in the picks and shovels stocks in general, hasn't there? Because I think it was last week we talked about Techmar, but that is another one where I see a huge change. And actually, we've got we did talk about it last week because somebody very kindly actually emailed me and told me where Darlington was, and I think we were both miles out, Phil. But the reason I'm coming on to Darlington, and sorry to bring it up again in the next podcast, is that actually we had a company in last Friday as well that was also from Darlington. So we're going to have to clearly go there. And that was Filtronic. And they've also had some, was it figures or something yesterday? Today?
Yeah, they'll have a trading update today. But so the ticker is FTC. It's 26 million market cap. The shares are up 40% in the last 12 months, and it's certainly one we've talked about before. I'm quite interested in this one because it's radio frequency electronics, Andrew, and very quickly on your mobile phone, the stuff inside is all processing lovely digital information for your videos, downloads, whatever. But at the end of the day, it has to be transmitted over the airwaves, and that requires it to go out as radio frequency waves over the network. So their their electronics is involved in 5G transmission systems, military, including radar, satellite communications, and secure radio for the police. And this is a company that's been in turnaround mode and moved into profit last year and back into cash generation. So that's why.
I mean, it's still a tiny market cap, isn't it?
Yeah, and
been around for ages. I mean, it's a well-known company, and I'll tell you the bit that interests me. I mean, they played it down. Was the track 5G on the track? So we all know what it's like. You're on a train. You can't get a steady internet connection or anything decent, and you want to watch a film, or you want to send emails, or you want to Google something. You just can't do it, and it would be so valuable if you could. And we know a company called Blue Wireless, which is a private company that is also trying to do this and has high hopes, but they played it down and thought it was quite difficult to do, didn't they?
They did. They said the technology had its challenges, that's for sure.
Which is a shame, because that would be very valuable if they could crack that. Now, also going back to picks and shovels, Another one that we like in the picks and shovels category is Lamprell. I don't know if you've had a chance today, because today they had announced that I think they just won a big contract. Phil, I've obviously been in the car driving down to Oxford, so wasn't able to read it because I was being very careful not to use my mobile phone whilst driving. But did you manage to get a quick look at that?
Only very briefly.
I caught you out there. Well, they have anyway, but that's another one to just keep an eye on. We'll leave it like that, all right? But our picks and shovels are starting to come. Our picks and shovel stocks are starting to come into focus. People are looking at what we're saying. Come on, what else have you seen, Phil?
Right, I have very briefly seen. Just let's stick with electrification. Just more generally, I mean, obviously Tesla, you've seen the announcement that is it Hertz Rental are going to buy 100,000 electric cars from Tesla. Look, Tesla is going to be in a lot of people's technology portfolios in their SIPs, but no, really interesting deal for them. And it's seen their shares, and I can't believe this, trillion market cap, $1,000 a share. They were $100 in January 2020. Tesla.
It's extraordinary. And it just shows you, actually, because obviously they took a long time to take off. It was years and years and years. People didn't believe it. But when these things then suddenly go into production, mass production, and they take off, does the share price move?
That is a 10-bagger. Now, following in their tails, you could argue, or not, but General Motors have said that they're going to work with dealers and install 40,000 electric vehicle chargers in the US, which is, they've got some of their own charging technology, and they're going to be helping also resellers to, in terms of the financing of those. But you can see the direction of travel there. And BP's announced that it's signed a partnership with the maker of Vespa scooters. Very well-known brand of scooters there, to develop electric charging points and battery swap stations. So BP moving ahead. And of course, BP has its own charging network already. I think they've gotten 7,500 chargers, and they're aiming to have 70,000 charging points globally by 2030.
It's all happening, Phil. It's so exciting. I love it. The transitional energy revolution. We love the whole thing, don't we? Come on, what else have you got anything else in tech you want to comment upon this week?
Red-centric, dare I say, cloud services, 197 million market cap. These shares are up by 7% year to date. Andrew, this was one of my picks of the year. But this is cloud services, so a lot of it goes into UK businesses, their IT systems and support. It's all done outside the organisation. We do this. So there's a 6-month trading update. Revenues look to be about flat, as does about 46 million, EBITDA of 12 million. This is a business that's throwing off cash. Made a final dividend payment of 3.6 million. Also made 9.5 million acquisitions. So red-centric, this is one I find quite interesting because of that strong cash generation from its cloud services. So that was their trading update, and they're expecting trading the year to March 22 to be in line with the board's expectations. So they changed really on that one.
And we also had Frontier IP Group today, actually, didn't we? Where I think their NAV or so was up about 64%, and profits were up like 135% or something, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. So this is Frontier IP. This is one that we write research on for the company. And since we initiated coverage, Andrew, I was looking at this. This was done in November 2020. We did that 67p, and the shares now are about 125p. And they're basically they work with companies that mainly spin out to universities. They help them commercialize their technologies, and for that they get an equity stake in those companies. And you're right, their portfolio value, they've got something like 19 stakes, increased by 64% to £32 million. And the large proportion of that was from something we talked a lot about in their portfolio, and that's Exscientia, that has AI, artificial intelligence technology for drug discovery. And this is a company that's been through a number of sort of 100 million plus raises over the last 12 months. SoftBank have come in, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It's got the backing of large pharma companies, and it had an IPO a couple of weeks ago in the States. Now, Frontier have got a 1.7% holding in Exscientia, and that's worth about, I was just trying to calculate, about £26 million out of that portfolio value of over 32 million. But it shows how successful their model can be. I mean, this Exscientia was originally a spin out from Dundee University, and the latest valuation is something like $2.5 billion.
As we've said many a time on this podcast, some of these small, early stage sort of seed venture capital funds have the potential to give huge returns and really are well worth looking at. They're not for traders; they're for slightly longer term investors. I'm rattling through a little bit here today because I'm feeling hungry. But anything else in tech? We might have to move on a bit to our third leg now, which is tech, trends, and brands, of course.
Yes, indeed. Yes, let's move on to the brands.
All right, let's move on to the brands, because actually, Phil, we went on a site visit, didn't we, on Monday? Another site visit. We've been out and about, where I have been this week. We went down to Gloucester. There's a rhyme, isn't there? Dr. Foster went to Gloucester. Actually, it was Phil and Andrew went to Gloucester. But anyway, we went to see Pulsin, which is a subsidiary or part of S Ventures. And they make these, they're branded healthy bars. I mean, they really are healthy. Unlike, Naked bars and Gerarda bars, whatever they're called. You probably know better than me, which actually aren't really that healthy. They pretend they are, but they're not really. These really are healthy bars and with clean ingredients, but they make them taste pretty good. We did taste some. They were actually pretty tasty, weren't they?
They were very nice, yes. So Pulsin, I'll tell you what it's plant-based products.
That's the word I was looking for. Yes.
So they make plant-based snack and protein bars. They make chocolate brownies, which we tasted, and their products are gluten-free, palm oil-free. They also make keto bars for keto diet and protein shakes. And this is a long-established company. And right, but it's part of S Ventures. They're a corporate client of ours. But that was a fascinating visit.
I don't really know about keto diets, I'll be absolutely honest with you, but I'm told it's quite a big thing.
It is indeed, yes. I'll get smacked on this one. I think it's a low carb based diet, but it is very popular, Andrew. Yeah.
Probably I should be on it, but there we go. Anyway, so we saw them. That was exciting, and obviously also just whilst on brands, we are our IPO of Silverwood Brands. We've actually closed the book today. The founders put in about £1 million. We've raised about another million, just over another £1 million as well, I think, which is fantastic. It's more than we sort of were expecting. And it's going to be, we'll get the admission document, all that sort of stuff published. Hopefully trading in about 10 days time. Really, really excited. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be a really exciting one.
That's fantastic news, Andrew. I think you've now done enough to merit lunch.
Oh, goody. I can go. It is a short one. Look, I hope everyone's enjoyed it. And look, if you've got any questions about my site visit down here in Oxford, which is the one that I know a lot of people do have questions about, do feel free to give me a shout. Likewise, if you've got questions about Pulsin, you can give Phil or myself a shout, or S Ventures, or anything we're doing in brands. It's a very interesting space, I think, and it does sort of time with everything else we do, because a lot of it is sold online. And remember, of course, there's a little date for your diary, which is coming up. We've got Singles Day in China, Phil, coming up on the 11th of November, which is the day where more is sold online than anywhere else in the world in one day. And that obviously is a very important day for our client Samarkand, because they should be having an absolutely record day that day.
They hopefully will. It is a huge day in China e-commerce, and they are perfectly positioned to benefit from that. That's for sure.
There you go. On that note, I hope everyone has a good end of the week, a good weekend, and we'll do another one next week. Thanks, Phil.
Okay, take care, Andrew.